Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marty Higgins, and I am the founder and CEO of Harvest. It's good to see some familiar faces out in the crowd. Harvest is a San Francisco-based dispensary brand that has reimagined retail cannabis. We are normalizing the retail experience for the modern cannabis consumer. As you can see from the image here on the screen, we've taken the products and put them out on the shelf. We've said goodbye to the jewelry store experience, and we've opened the first private members-only cannabis lounge in San Francisco. Harvest is a proven retail concept and a scalable model that was built for the adult use legalization of cannabis. It would help if I have that clicker. And as if it wasn't enough to disrupt the retail space in cannabis, what you see here is the first private members-only cannabis lounge located in San Francisco that we opened earlier this year. It is a meeting and gathering place for like-minded individuals, those that want to have some education in the cannabis space. We're changing how people consume cannabis and how they think about it. In fact, that's my mission in this space. And we've held the first farmers market in San Francisco to rave reviews. So it's no surprise that many of our customers and our members of our private lounge are very bullish on Harvest and our concept. They love it. We've received a lot of attention from the media, press, online, and television. And again, that's not a surprise to me, as MJ Biz Daily reports that 50% of all cannabis consumers want an elevated experience. And that's what we've delivered. And in cannabis, in California, we've had legal cannabis for 20 years. This individual here, been all over the world, and still thinks that Harvest is a step above the rest. I think some of the biggest brands are going to be launched and emerge in California, thanks to the passing of Prop 64. Any Californians in the room? Fantastic. And so the biggest stage in the world has been set in cannabis, and Harvest is at the center. You know, there's a third of all Californians consume cannabis. There are 1 million registered medical marijuana patients today. That's 10 million, over 10 million individuals that have never stepped foot inside of a dispensary. And so this up and to the right that you see, to me, is not a projection. It's inevitable, the growth of our California cannabis economy. And with a healthy $1 billion retail business that exists today, we're poised for the explosive growth. And so what happens when these 10 million non-card holders walk into a dispensary for the first time? Well, I think what you're going to feel or see is my feeling that cannabis is mainstream, but yet the brands are not. In fact, most dispensaries are not marketing to a mainstream audience. Harvest has built a mainstream brand, and we're marketing to a mainstream audience, and we're marketing and merchandising a mainstream product. We're focused on consumer behavior patterns and trends by some comparable industries: coffee, organic foods, wine, craft beer. And it's arguable that Starbucks and Whole Foods have changed the way that their respective industries operate by delivering a higher quality product and increased customer service. Harvest looks to implement a similar strategy in cannabis, and that's why we become the California premier dispensary brand. But there's beyond a look and flash of a pretty store is the components behind it. It never felt good to me as I started to look into this industry 3 years ago, walking into dispensary, figuring out, why isn't this the same as going to get a cup of coffee, my groceries, a bagel, or a bottle of wine? And so I set out to change that, to have an experience in retail that felt normal, to engage with cannabis consultants that were present and not baked out of their trees. Transparency. It's a big element in what we do. We're connecting our patients and customers with their source materials, the farmers, the producers that have produced their materials and grown their cannabis. Why? Because we want to have a consistent experience across multiple locations and time. If you're going in to buy sour diesel or whatever strain and you don't know who produced it, how is it possible that you could simply recreate that? We would never think about purchasing wine if we didn't know who the manufacturer was. But we go beyond that and we lab test our cannabis for harmful chemicals, molds, pesticides that are used, that are currently unregulated and unknown to the many cannabis consumers in California, where I believe medicine should be medicine. I care about what I put into my body. Obviously, the United States customer feel the same way. And so we're lab testing. But this is all part of our customer-first approach based on this consumer-driven experience that we're delivering. We're putting in retail science for inventory controls and management. And we're hiring best-in-practice managers from some of the most notable retailers in the country: Whole Foods, Williams-Sonoma, Starbucks. All of this is designed to create a new paradigm in cannabis today. So our plan is quite simple. We've opened a store earlier this year. It's doing several $100,000 a month in business. We're actually opening our second store shortly, in a couple of days. We've established a proof of concept, and now it's time to replicate and expand. We're going to do this by acquiring existing dispensaries or joint venturing with existing operators. We're going to pursue new licenses in emerging markets because we believe that many markets in California that would appeal to the Harvest brand have not come online yet. They do not have a cannabis program. And then there's other markets like Oakland that are expanding that we're going to pursue. We're going to purchase the real estate where it makes economic sense and bolsters the returns to our investors. We're going to start in the San Francisco Bay Area. I love San Francisco, not only because I lived there for a number of years and live in Oakland currently, but because it's the oldest market in the country. It's highly regulated, it's robust, and it's poised for explosive growth. Phase 2 is going to move to Southern California, Los Angeles, Orange County, the beach communities. Again, many markets that do not have cannabis currently today will be on our horizon. And so the road to 20 stores looks like our first 2 in San Francisco. We've deployed $10 million in debt and equity to acquire these properties and open up the Harvest brand concept as the tenant in this market. And we have 2 in the pipeline. I see us expanding 1 to 2 more stores in San Francisco before we branch out and pursue that Oakland license and pursue other emerging markets like Walnut Creek, Napa, or Marin County. So I've assembled a team that I feel so far has led to the execution and popular success of the Harvest brand. For those of you that don't know my background, I spent about 10 years in the hospitality and restaurant industry in my 20s. I spent 20 years as a real estate broker and real estate investor. I looked at the dislocation of the real estate market in 2010 as an industry and the trends, and promptly put together a company that acquired 28 properties and cycled all of those for a 30% IRR return to my investors. So I know how to identify value-added opportunities and turn them into cash-flowing investments. Steve Suckman is a C-level executive from the software and licensing space and has been with me day one. And Blake Neiman Davis, 20-year fashion guru, as I call him, lives, eats, and breathes retail. He's also in the cannabis space and has been here for 3 years. So each of us bring a level of expertise in our former business lives and our current business plan to execute against our investment strategy. So in closing, the Harvest concept was built for adult use legalization. We've put a concept in place, and our stores are being well received by not only the customers and our patients, but the producers and farmers. It seems that everybody has been waiting for somebody to step into the industry and bring a level of detail in the retail side of the business and attention to high-quality products and a level of service that isn't found. Our innovative approach has reshaped the retail industry in cannabis for the good, I believe. Part of my mission is to change how people think about and consume cannabis, erasing the negative stereotype and giving them a place to go and socialize with cannabis in our private members-only consumption lounges. San Francisco is a dynamic market with a high barrier to entry. It's strongly regulated, and because of the tourism industry, is positioned, I would say, as strongly as any market in the country, with maybe the exception of Vegas, to explode in 2018 when our adult use legalization laws are implemented. We're looking for accredited investors to join us on this long-term vision of a national brand. Harvest has the right concept, it has the right team, and it's the right time. So I'd be happy to answer any questions and speak to you privately about the investment offering. And if I have any time, I'll answer a question or two. Yes, Frank. Yes, we're opening a second location in the Mission District in San Francisco. It will have the same retail format with another private consumption lounge. And I should mention, thanks for asking, Frank, that there are 7 on-site consumption permits attached to dispensaries in the entire country. They're all in San Francisco. It is changing. It is the wave of the future for people to go out and socialize, as Duma indicated, consuming cannabis products in a social setting. There are 3 smoking permits of those 7. Harvest now controls 2, and we'll open up that second private members-only lounge. Okay, yes. That's an interesting question, and we've spent a lot of time, energy, and money examining the franchise element. Harvest was originally designed as a license opportunity that I built out and had to abandon. With a federally illegal substance and an agency, a federal agency overseeing the franchisees and franchisors, that's not a good mix. And so I like to think that I place risk mitigation at the forefront of my investors. That's why we purchase properties in San Francisco, where my investors are actually the real estate owners as well, insulating them from the dispensary while we were waiting for Prop 64 to pass. Yes, Wade. We have about 40, including the farmers market farmers that come and supply us with product, both indoor, Northern California, outdoor, and locally grown indoor. Yes? It's either going to fall into both. San Francisco is a unique market in the sense that the entitlements actually run with the land. And so as a real estate entrepreneur and investor, I quickly evaluated and analyzed that it made sense for us to purchase the real estate and control our destiny. I imagine that most markets will come online without that similar regulation, as all local municipalities will govern their own cannabis programs. And I think that we'll see a lot of long-term leases in our program. Thank you very much, everyone.